Hey guys, and welcome to Crypto Simplified, where I answer questions or respond to stuff that I've seen around the web or been asked personally in the last week. Today we're going to be going over some common misconceptions that I've seen people make regarding Bitcoin and in some cases cryptocurrency in general. Just a quick note, this intro was filmed after the fact because I forgot to record one. And if you like the content, please hit subscribe.
Mining uses a lot of power because it's difficult to verify transactions.
So the amount of energy used by miners is actually got nothing to do with the number of transactions within a block. It actually has everything to do with the fact that the way proof of work is designed is to be sort of like a race condition. So the idea is that the miners are all competing to be the one to forge the next block and therefore receive the reward. So the thing is, it actually has to be as difficult as it is and take as much computing power as it is to create this race condition and to stop people from just coming in and forging every new block, taking every new coin, and potentially adding malicious transactions into the network. By creating this race condition, what it's actually doing is adding strength to the network, because the more miners there are and the more people validating and the more chance that there is that someone else will be chosen as a validator means that any bad actors wanting to sneak transactions through onto the network have a much lower chance of doing so, because there's more people that it could choose from to validate the next block.
Wallets actually hold their funds.
This one and the next question are somewhat tied together because wallets are actually a little bit confusing, because we know wallets to hold funds. That's not actually really how they work on the blockchain. A wallet is the public and private key of an address. If you know an address, you can look it up on a blockchain explorer and see all of the transactions to and from that address. The thing is, you cannot sign any transactions from that address. And that's what a wallet is. A wallet provides you the ability to create a transaction from that address on the network. You can get view-only wallets, and these work by just looking at the public address that's on the network. For example, Ledger Live does this. You can check your funds on Ledger Live without having to connect your Ledger device, because it's just looking at the public address and looking at how many funds are on there.
A wallet address has a balance.
So wallets don't actually have a balance, and this kind of comes more from what a Bitcoin actually is. So you can trace a Bitcoin back to the block it was minted on. And this is because essentially all the blockchain is just a big list of transactions. Now each transaction has who it's from, who it was to, how much it was for, and then the hash, which is used by other miners to verify that that transaction is a legitimate transaction. So when we look at an address and we see that it has, say, 1 Bitcoin, there's not actually a single digital Bitcoin stored at that address. What it's actually doing is summing up the total transactions that have happened to and from that address. So for example, if it knows that 1.5 came in and then 0.25 went out and 0.25 went out, that there is essentially 1 remaining. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why people struggle with the concept of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is not a physical thing. There is not actually a digital currency. You could not quantify a Bitcoin. There is just a giant public ledger that tells you where the coin came from and where it has been since its creation.
Bitcoin is anonymous.
To buy a Bitcoin, chances are that you put in some form of identification. Now, unfortunately, what this means is that whatever coin you received from that exchange is tied to you. So if someone really wanted to find out who you were, they could go to the exchange that you purchased that coin from and find out who you are. Now, obviously, we are talking some sort of government body doing this. No one could just rock up to an exchange and be like, hey, I want to know who purchased this specific coin. But there is still that problem that it could be traced back to you, which is why if you can, buying your Bitcoin through a service that does not require any sort of identification is a far more preferred option, because it means that at no point can that Bitcoin be tied back to you as an individual. There is coins that aim to be completely anonymous, such as Monero, but the problem is that these coins have no transparency. So unlike the blockchain, where you can see anything that's going on the network and therefore prove that it's legitimate and fair, you can't do the same with Monero. However, if you truly want full anonymity, then Monero is 100% the way you want to go. And the thing is that even though most governments do not recognize Bitcoin as an asset or a security or a currency, the reason that they expect your identity to be attached to a coin is for tax purposes. So they know that you bought some and they can tax you for it, or potentially hit you for tax fraud if you don't pay tax for it.
Governments can shut down Bitcoin.
So one of the reasons that governments will try and block exchanges and vendors rather than try to shut down, say, Bitcoin, is because they can't. Because Bitcoin is decentralized, they would have to go after every individual person who is running a node. Now, every miner is running a node. Any person who just has the knowledge and the time and the capability to run their own node will do so. In fact, there is quite a few benefits to running your own node, such as knowing that your transactions are secure because they are going through a node that you control yourself. So the thing is that without one central organization or individual to shut down, governments can't actually stop Bitcoin from existing, because as long as there is someone with a computer willing to run a node, it will exist. Now, this obviously isn't to say that they can't make it incredibly hard to get Bitcoin. For example, they could block exchanges, they could make it illegal to purchase Bitcoin, in which case you would have to illegally do so. However, it would still exist through all of this because there is no way for it to actually be shut down. I hope this has cleared up some of the common misconceptions that people have about Bitcoin, and some of them do apply to cryptocurrencies in general. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Crypto Simplified. If you did, please leave me a like, a comment, and hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Bye.